it's our first change of guards here in Lagos. As Emmanuel and Kaderia step down for now, in their place, we now have Achike Chude, a member of Community Life Project and Reclaim Niger, which is a member of the Civil Society Situation Room. Dr. Omoshola Deji, a researcher and political scientist, as well as Hidayat Hassan, Director, Center for Democracy and Development. Great to have you all for joining us. All right, let's start with, you gentlemen in the studio, although ideally, I'm sure, Ruth, you will prefer that we start with the ladies.
Ladies first.
Absolutely. Let's roll with Hidayat Hassan, Director, Center for Democracy and Development. So, Hidayat, good to have you join us on this special day. Nigerians are electing their president. What are your thoughts so far? We've seen the president vote. We've seen the candidate of the PDP and the candidate of the APC. What are your thoughts so far, and what are your expectations?
I think that first and foremost, it's a festival of democracy. And it's the first time since 2011 we have not postponed our elections. So that's another marker for us that we should be proud of. Nigerians went to the polls this morning. Some went to bed last night thinking that by the time they wake up, elections might be called off. But now we are having it, irrespective of challenges. I think that's itself. It shows that with each electoral cycle, we are actually improving. And this democracy is coming to actually stay. And we should today look for any marker of achievement out there and let it be and let it cheer us on as the ever resilient Nigerians that we are. And it's also interesting that many Nigerians have turned up as early as 6 a.m. to vote, telling you that the demand for democracy is actually rising. We are not actually losing it. So there are lots of positive. I'm very positive. I'm positive to be here. I'm positive that this elections was in no way postponed, and we have actually kept these dates.
All right, thank you, Hidayat. But we have Ovietemi George, Arise TV's correspondent in Bayelsa, waiting to give us the situation report in Yenagoa. Ovietemi, how's it turning up out there?
Thank you very much, Steve Ayorinde. Well, I'm here at Otueke, and this is Ward 13, Unit 39 in Otueke, where the former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, will be casting his ballot. And as you can see, officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission have arrived with the materials. We've been waiting for this long. But the good thing is they are already here. As the first rays of sunlight hit the rooftops of the ancient community, we believe they'll be setting up, and then the former president will come and cast his ballot. And so will others of this community. They've been waiting, I must tell you. But the good thing is it can really start now. Please, you can move your materials, please. I decided to just tell them to wait here. Well, this is a familiar polling unit for me for about the past 16 years. I've been coming here since 2011, 2015, and of course, now 2023. We will follow them. We believe that the setting up is already going. So for Otueke in Ogbia Council area of Bayelsa State, this is where Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan will be casting his ballot. Now, there are 8 local government areas in Bayelsa, but this is where we are. We understand also in Sampo, that is in Kolokuma-Pokma local government area, the governor, Senator Doye Diri, will be casting his ballot. In Okpoma, that is in Brass local government area, the Minister of State Petroleum Resources, Chief Timepri Silva, will perform his civic duties. Okay, going to Bayelsa West, precisely Tororua, Senator Henry Seriake Dixon, who is also a candidate and also former governor of this state, will be doing the same thing. So all around Bayelsa, I would say something. The materials have been arriving quite late. I could monitor a few minutes ago the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, that is for the presidential election, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, cast his ballot. But that is in Lagos. Elsewhere, in Adamawa, Atiku, but in Bayelsa, it has been the norm for the past 16 years. If you can go down memory lane, In 2015, we spent hours here. Then the machines were malfunctioning when Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan cast his ballot. It hasn't changed. Usually, Bayelsa, the materials arrive late. That is the situation, Steve Ayorinde.
All right, thank you, Vieteme. We'll still be back to you at some point later. But back here in the studio, Dr. Deji, 8 years ago, just like Vieteme said, there were issues with card reader with the sitting president at that time. But, fast forward to 8 years after, we're now talking beavers. Dr. Deji, how do you think that this has changed things and expectations of people in terms of INEC getting it right this time around?
I think the expectation of people has changed with the introduction of the technology system, the beaver system. So the change in technology has given people hope that now we'll have a change from the normal norm whereby most of our systems are not technology-based. So people kind of have trust in the system, most especially the election of Ekiti and Osun, though there's a bit of shaky trust on the part of the people because of the judgment recently given as regards the Osun state election. But people still have that confidence in the beaver system that if it is properly used, if it is properly manned, that it will be an improvement from the past process that we've had.
Achike, Ruth, go on. Yes, please.
You may also ask questions, so I hope you know that.
Absolutely. you lead the charge. All right.
Actually, earlier on, we were saying that a lot of people that actually register does not reflect on those that actually vote. That there's a certain percentage of people that come out instead of the full amount of people that actually voted. Do you think how much difference do you think that will make this time around in terms of those that would actually come out and use their PVCs?
Well, whatever I say will be speculation, obviously. I think ultimately at the end of the day, we're going to have reports coming in from everywhere, and we're going to begin to, segmentize these reports, and that will eventually determine what might happen. But from what I have seen so far, not just in Lagos, because we are also in contact with so many other groups, especially observer groups across the country. The responses have been very good by Nigerians.
Okay.
But don't also forget that in most of the elections that we have monitored in the past, it starts off that way. So you have this feeling that, yes, this is it, people are turning out. And then by the end of the election, you realize that it's not exactly what we expected. But perhaps there could be
But why is that, though? Is it that the numbers decrease?
There might be multiplicity of reasons. And part of the reason is that because it's important that these beavers functions properly.
Okay.
It's important that the turnaround time, for accreditation and actual voting is done much faster. So if you have, on average, for instance, about maybe a 1 minute turnaround, that is fantastic.
Yes.
So if you have a 1 minute turnaround, of course, there's an increase in the number of people that end up accrediting and voting. But when you have an average of about 3 minutes turnaround, it reduces it by 1/3.
Yes.
So you find a situation where if care is not taken, by the time elections are done, you still have some people who, and have not yet voted. Though there is a law that once it is 2:30 and you have people on the queue, then the INEC has no choice than to ensure that those people also vote. But I think the turnaround time of the beavers is very critical in determining the number of people that actually vote. So I think that is the major thing. If we can get that right, then I suspect that we're going to have a lot more people voting in this particular election. Now, in some places, the INEC is supposed to have started this process from 8:30. Accreditation should start by 8:30. But as at the time I left my, one of the polling units in Bagada, it was they started that process about an hour late, because by the time the INEC, ad hoc, staff came in, the first thing they did was, first of all, they had to start pasting the number of the names of registered voters in the place. They had to do that. Then they had to start physically to remove all the posters of candidates, on the wall.
Around the polling
Okay, around the area.
That took a long time too.
Do you think that would have made any difference, though?
No, it doesn't matter. It's a law.
It's about the law.
Yeah, no, it's the law. Don't forget the problem Abiola had.
Yes.
For whatever reason, when he wore that party logo, it was one of the bases for which that election was cancelled. Okay. So anybody can use that when you are in violation of the law. So, but the best thing is for us to comply with the law, with provisions of the law. And so, but again, you look at the presidential election, at the last presidential election, maybe about turnout was around 35%. It's abysmal. Now we have an increase of about 94 million registered voters.
87 million collected.
87 million cards collected. From what I have seen so far, though it is early days yet, but I suspect that we're going to have something in the region of 40 to 45 in terms of, the turnout of registered voters.
Isn't that still low?
It might be low, but it's progress.
It will be a record,
isn't it? It will be a record. That's it will still be low. I mean, when you are now talking about 60% of registered voters, 70% of registered, wow, then you know that we're crazy.
Well, I would have thought with the attention on the social media, the frenzy with these 4 candidates, that a lot more people would have turned out.
No, people are turning out. I mean, I was
more than the 40% that you said.
No, I've just been conservative. Okay. You understand? If we have anything above that 45%, then there is a massive improvement of about 10% from what we had.
Okay. Yes. And hopefully it starts to increase.
Oh, of course. The more people have confidence in the democratization process, the more people will be compelled for their own good to come out and be involved in the process. Don't forget that this is now we're in a mode of seeking for not just relevance but existence. People's livelihoods are under threat in Nigeria. The insecurity is taking a toll on citizens of this country. These are some of the things that are propelling people to go to the polls for their own survival, for their own existence.
Okay. Dr. Deji, will you align with that thought, particularly given that the youths are expected to play an important role in this election? Do you see them coming out in their numbers this time around so that, like Achike said, maybe we could, for the first time in a long while, hit about 45, if possible, 50% of voter turnout? Dr. Deji.
Yes, I align with his thoughts, because if you look at the situation of the country now, the youth, there's been this massive, unprecedented rise in youth interest in the election itself. So that, I think, would increase the turnout today if what we've seen in the social media, if the clamor by the youth is anything to go by, today I think we should have a massive turnout. And at the end of the day, when the results and statistics begin to trickle in, we should see much participation from the youth. We have majority of the youth in the voters register. So they should go out today and exercise their franchise. They should walk the talk. They've said a lot of things. Oh, this time it will be different. We are going to cast our vote. And majority of the youth have shown interest in a particular candidate. Though from my observation, most of the youth, because there are different categories of youth, we have youth in the metropolis, the cosmopolitan youth, and we have some in the rural areas, and we have youth that we can call the political thugs. Whether we like it or not, they are also youth. So this category of youth do not fall into those that have shown interest in that particular candidate itself. And that brings me to the question that, okay, when the going gets tough, the tough gets go. But for the candidate of the Labour Party, for example, who the youth have shown much interest in the political scene, when the going gets tough, who gets go for him? That's one of the major issues that has been. But largely, if Nigerian youth are not just sitting behind the social media, and one of my concerns again is most of these youth that express their voice on social media. There are some of the youth that on election day, their mother will tie him or her to the rapper that, oh, I don't want trouble, oh, I've struggled to train you. So maybe that may affect the turnout. But if the youth are to express themselves the way that they have so said that they are going to do, we should expect massive youth turnout for this election.
Deji, can I break in there? Because as much as you say that some of these youths might have a voice indoors, but when it comes out to going out there, they don't have the courage. And SARS has changed that. People died because of NSAS. NSAS has left an indelible print in the minds of every single Nigerian. And this is what I believe have given the youth the voice and the courage to come out. So maybe like before they would have thought that they will not be that involved because their votes don't count. The truth of the matter is that the candidates who you claim they most likely support have already said that his own, what's the word now? His own power comes from the voices of the youth. That he doesn't have any political structure. His political structure are the voices of the masses on the streets. And I think this time around, the youths have they decided to take their voice to another level because of what they've been through with NSAS. So I think they will make more impact and they will come out to vote more than they ever did before. I think that's my take.
Okay, let's bring in Idayat, and I would like you to start from the point raised by Ruth that, NSAS might be contributing a whole lot to bringing the youth out to vote. But also bear in mind, and I would also like you to speak to that this is not just about the presidential election. Today is also the election for the National Assembly. Senators will be elected. Members of the House of Reps, will be elected. Those who are going out to cast their ballots will get 3 ballot papers. We don't just want to say that a president will emerge, but, senators and House of Reps members who are critical in our democratic experiment, will also be elected today. Speak to those 2 issues, Idayat, for us.
Okay, thank you very much. I think at every point in these elections, we should keep emphasizing that the youth is an heterogeneous category. And they are all not supporting one candidate. It's important. Yes, they constitute over 39% of the registered voters, but we know they are supporting as much as 5 different parties, and some of them are vehemently supporting this. The NSAS is a positive, and it's a positive also because it has brought a geopolitical dimension, or how do you call it, a geographical one, to participation in Nigeria. In the northern part of the country, young people have consistently participated in elections, and their turnout, I think, has been quite relatively high compared to the southern part of the country. So I think NSAS has been fantastic, and we know that in this other 3 geopolitical zones, we expect to see improved turnout compared to previous elections. But I think what NSAS has done is that it's even gone beyond the participation we are seeing when it comes to this electoral process. It's also helped to improve participation in the political process itself. In these all elections, I will give it to the young people for mobilizing people to register to vote, to pick up their voters card, and even doing the civic or voter education, not leaving it to the civil society. So those are immense positive, but we should actually try to be very, very balanced so that at the end of it, we are putting out the right information. Now, these elections, of course, we become so very, very focused on the presidential elections, forgetting that the most important arm of government when it comes to the legislative houses, the National Assembly, Nigeria National Assembly elections are also being held simultaneously today. And these people who will be elected will actually be the ones to help us hold accountable who our president would be, because they have the oversight duty, they have the lawmaking duty, and these are like immense, really, when we talk in terms of deepening democracy. And I'm sure that on the ballot, by the time we finish these elections, we would actually see more parties compared to the 2 dominant parties, or compared to even the 4 we are flagging in these elections. I expect to see other parties come up and having elected parliamentarian in these elections, which is again going to be a very big positive from us from different parts of the country. As we have seen new parties emerged, the factionalization of the parties actually has been a positive, because you had other people leave parties, and they have influence, they have social influence. Some have been veteran politicians, some are also very good people who have decided to vie, and they are vying, building on their social capital, having what the structure of the people or the structure of the party, and will likely win in these elections.
Okay, that's a good one. Achike, I'd like to bring you in too. I mean, the parliamentary elections are important, just like Hidayat said, but we see that some of the top flight parties did not field the entire numbers, for example, of the Senate, for Senate seats, like Labour Party, for example. I'm not sure about NMPP. How do you think that can play a role in electing who the president is? Because if you go out to vote, an ordinary voter, you are handed 3 ballot papers. But then if the party whose candidate you are voting for the presidential election does not have candidates for the Senate and the House of Reps, how will it affect you? You just pick one and then you walk away, with the other 2.
Well, obviously, there's nothing people can do if candidates from their party are not on the ballot. They either walk away or they decide to vote for, the ones, any one of their choice. But beyond that,
from other parties.
Yeah, from other parties. But don't forget, just like you said, the 2 parties you mentioned, the NMPP and the Labour Party, are still parties that are evolving.
Yeah.
These are parties that are barely, in terms of, operational age, less than a year. And what some of them have done, in a way, have been phenomenal. Then you have other, political parties, again, that are even smaller than these 2. And so you find out that it has always been the issue of capacity. Most of these political parties do not have capacity to be able to play the kind of dominant role that others are playing. They do not have the money, they do not have the resources also. And ultimately, really, politics, especially the presidential system, it cannot be conducted without very huge resources.
That's right.
Although INEC has tried to put a cap on the kind of obscene money that we are seeing from the politicians, but that has not exactly, yielded them much dividends. And so it's part of the arguments that people have made. I mean, at the presidential level, for some of the other political parties, if you have a president that is elected and you don't have a National Assembly, for instance, to support that president, then you're going to lose a lot of advantage because they might end up not giving you the kind of support that you need. But if you look at the history of our democracy, in recent times from 1999 till date,
yes,
the opposition that the dominant political parties or the parties in government have come from their own people, from members of National Assembly, who constitute in most cases 2/3 or more than 2/3 of members of National Assembly. You're talking about House of Representatives. You're talking about the Senate. In fact, from when the PDP held sway for about 16 years, the major problem they had were from their members at the National Assembly. So it is not a given that once you have the required number of candidates representing your party at the National Assembly, therefore you will have all of a very smooth ride. For the APC, we also had the same, at least the first 4 years before the president's second term.
That's right.
We also had this opposition to a lot of the policies of the president by the Senate led by Olushola Saraki. Bukola Saraki. So it's not a given. But I think, and we should also understand what democracy is all about. It's about balance. It's also about, of course, it's about one being dependent on another, but it's also about, it's also about some level of influence or control over the other arms of government. So the executive, the legislature is in a position constitutionally to check some of the excesses of the executive. The executive can also respond in like manner when the legislature, for instance, passes a bill that it does not like, it can veto it. And then, of course, when all of these bodies, organs of government have issues and it is taken to the court, then you realize how important and how powerful the courts can be because they can shoot down any of these things. So it is part of the intricate nature of our politics, especially in a democracy, that you have different arms of government watching over one another. But it doesn't even end with them.
Yeah.
You also have the fourth estate of the realm, which is you people, the media, also doing a critical job of also putting the politicians and the institutions of state under scrutiny. And above all of this are the people. If the people are conscientized enough, if the people are aware enough, then the people determine the kind of polity they have. And the people, that's why the politicians now have to come to them.
Yeah.
They have to convince them at this particular point in time. They have to spend sleepless nights, trying to, for their campaigns and all that, because at this particular point in time, the people are kings, but can the king really make the right choice, with this particular election?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have to ask you a question today. Is that I like what you said about them trying to convince the people. Apart from having the political structure, the candidates or whoever it is that is running for presidency have to know how to convince the people of their credibility. Now, what I want to ask is that, in your take, do you think that these four, or the predominantly four candidates, did enough job in telling people how to solve the solutions? Not I will. Do you think they spent enough time explaining to people what they were going to do and how they were going to do it? I think that was predominantly missing.
No, I will tell you.
So
I will tell you no. Fine. Now they were good when it came to what they wanted to do. That's one level. The other level, which is the most critical, is how are you going to do it?
Exactly.
So if you send somebody from here, somebody who comes to Lagos for the very first time, and you tell him to go to Bagada, and even when you give him money, go to Bagada, and you don't tell him how he's going to get to Bagada, he's going to have problem here and there. So, for instance, there are stupendous claims that they have made, about whether it's our educational system, it's our healthcare infrastructure, it's about energy and all that. Anybody can say anything. You understand? Anybody can make, these are words. But words can only be backed up, or you have to be backed up, So, if you say you're going to turn around the infrastructure of this country, for instance, you're looking at roads, you're looking at housing and so many other things, how are you going to do that? You must take into cognizance the national budget of our country. You must take into cognizance the fact that we are spending about 80 to 90% of our budget, servicing our debts. So what that tells you automatically is that there is no money to be able to do all of those things you want to do.
That's your desire.
That's why you have to put on the thinking cap. Where are you going to generate the money from? How are you going to generate the money from? They were very short on these explanations, and I'm not sure there was actually any candidate. Some of the candidates were more eloquent when it comes to what they wanted to do. But it is the how, because everything that they promise they are going to do must be backed up with money, with the resources. So they were not able to actually convince us, for instance, that they knew how they were going to get the money, where they were going to get the money.
All right.
Yeah.
Dr. DG, I know that you have some thoughts on how this election is clinically different from the previous ones, and you had some figures about what happened previously and what is likely to happen now. Which key areas do you think that will stand this election out, for the presidential and for the and for the National Assembly elections for this year? What are the key areas of interest to you?
Well, what stands this election out is, in the past presidential elections, the candidates comes from at most 2 of the 3 major ethnic groups in Nigeria. Now, we have the major candidate from the tripod ethnic groups in Nigeria. So that raised a major concern that if each of the candidates do a to your tent, O Israel kind of thing, then that means that a candidate would have amassed much vote from his region or from his ethnic clan, which I think is not good for the country. So I would have preferred a situation whereby the 3 major ethnic groups in Nigeria are not represented in this election. But for the fact that these 3 major ethnic groups are represented in this election, like no other election that we have seen, raises concern, and that is a recipe for violence that can lead to serious conflict in the country, if not careful, a civil war, in the sense that if there is suspicion that a particular region is being marginalized in terms of voting. We hear your reporter complaining about Bayelsa State. It was at that time, it was to 11 in the morning, and they are just setting up the polling unit. Now, that is not a good trend. And we've seen other places whereby the election starts quite early. We saw the president voted, the candidate of the PDP and that of the APC. So my concern is INEC focusing on the hotspot? What happens to other places whereby the candidate does not come from? That, I think, is one of the things that we should be concerned about as regards this election. Then the dynamics of the election. Now, in 2019, there are 7 states that have over 1 million votes. Now, out of that 7 states, only Lagos is the state from the south. Only Lagos. As of 2019. We have the data before me shows that Jigawa, Kaduna, Bauchi, Lagos, Plateau, Kano, Katsina, all these are northern states except Lagos. Jigawa recorded 1.1 million, Kaduna 1.7, Bauchi 1.06, Lagos 1.1, Plateau 1.0 million, then Kano 1.9 and Katsina 1.6. So in this election, in 2019, we have Kano coming top in terms of registered voters, then we have Kaduna, then we have Katsina. If you look at the dynamics in this state, in Kano State, the presidential candidate of the NNPP is quite very popular there. He comes from that particular state. And now we have one of the former governor of that state in terms of, in the person of Malam Shekarau, now under the PDP, and we have the incumbent governor supporting the presidential candidate of the APC. So we have 3 major contending forces in the state. In 2019, Kano State recorded 74.55% for the APC. The PDP got 19.93%. Now, the APC may not be able to record up to that amount now based on the dynamics that I have explained. But if we look at it, of all these 3 states, of all these 7 states, only one was won by the PDP, which is Plateau. But now, the problem for the party is PDP won by a slight percentage. APC recorded 44.08%. Now, PDP recorded 51.62%. Now, that is not a wide margin as expected. So this dynamics will play a major role in this election. Then if you look at these states, they are largely controlled by the APC. But what will change the dynamics is in the past weeks, when election is coming, you see that government usually pamper the citizens. But in the past week, that has not been the case. Much of the analysis
Pampers
that have
the
yes,
When you say pampers, what do you mean?
they make life convenient for the citizen. They don't the citizens.
All right, Dr. Deji, just a few minutes. The former president of Nigeria, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, in his hometown of Otuoke, is now coming out to exercise his franchise. He will be going out to be accredited and then to cast his ballot. That's in Otuoke, his hometown in Bayelsa State.
Whether he'll be flying his own his ballot paper like his
No, we shouldn't take that one-off improper conduct by the president. Well, it's not likely. But like Ovieteme, said the other time, this has always, he has covered it for many years. We saw Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, 8 years ago when
his last outing was not pleasant.
It was not pleasant at all, exactly.
People were wondering if the candidate for the president, was not
could malfunction 3-4 times.
Then what else?
But I think part of what we should consider is the fact that I think even Dr. Jonathan himself would be happy that there's an improvement to what he brought on he brought on board with the cadre that now we have the Beavers, which is by far, an improvement.
But I'm curious. As he's here now and his polling booth, that white thing, is already set. Why wasn't that the same in Lagos with Tinubu?
Well, apparently there was an issue with the what was it called, the Alausa polling unit. Okay. But it was not the same thing where governor,
yes,
Sanwo-Olu, you know,
was.
voted. But of course, you also can't compare the number of accredited voters in Lagos to the one in Otuoke, not even in Yenagoa, you know, which is the capital city. But this is Otuoke.
But this is relatively calm, and it doesn't look like there are a lot of people there either.
It looks calm, and that's the former First Lady, Dame Patience Jonathan. We miss her, don't we? I mean, all those...
We do. I miss her flamboyant dressing, if nothing else.
And all the content that she used to dish out, you know.
Yeah, she had her own fair share of personality.
Yeah, she did.
You know.
And the mother of the ex-president is also there.
Oh, that's correct. Yes, that's the...
Why, is that his
mother.
mom, the one in the scarf?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, she looks ready.
So it's a full house of the Jonathans.
It's a full house, yes.
You
It's a
know.
full house.
I wonder
And
what
I'm sure even up to now, he's still glad that he has that legacy, that he considered
Absolutely.
defeat without a fight, without arguing, without anything.
But he has benefited from it tremendously.
He must have.
I mean, in terms of the kind of goodwill that he has had across the continent, he's been in charge of some of these peace round, peace round of talks.
Absolutely.
You know, over the unconstitutional change of government in West Africa.
Absolutely.
He's been leading the
So what was seen as a sign of...
He's a statesman.
Yes.
You know,
What was seen as a sign of
no doubt.
weakness is now seen as a sign of strength.
yes.
That's why I think it's always good to do right, because as at the time when he took that action, he did not know.
Okay,
that.
so the second
this
image
here.
there is that of the candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi. I believe that's in Nagulu, in Anambra State, his hometown. That's where he'll be voted. So we can see the difference in terms of the number of people
But you know, they were speculating at one time that there was no
that he will vote in Lagos.
No. In the voting cards, that Labour logo, the LP logo wasn't put on it.
Okay, the query raised
Yes,
by
the query.
Labour Party is that the logo of the Labour Party for the National Assembly elections did not feature in Lagos and Ondo States.
But has that been confirmed or denied or whatever?
We will find out. It's not likely that will happen in Anambra State where Peter Obi is voting.
Okay. But there was that speculation
to make a statement to clarify.
So they haven't done that yet.
Because it's in the public space, I'm not aware.
Because if that happens without them correcting it, it means that the election will not.
That will cause mayhem.
The election will not be, counted.
How come he's sitting down and the rest of them actually walk straight?
Who, Peter Obi?
Yes.
Well, I mean, you know, Mr. Peter Obi. I mean, he likes to follow the rule, just like Sanwo-Olu
But I'm
did in
wondering,
Lagos.
is it that he's not ready?
He probably might prefer to take his turn.
Yeah.
You know.
And
Okay.
until he's called upon.
Yes, until he's called upon.
Isn't that part of his selling gimmick?
I think it's actually a queue, but chairs were provided.
Okay, you can
No,
see
so are you
sitting
saying
down,
he's going
okay.
to queue with everybody else?
I mean, the idea is that wait till you are called upon. That was what the governor of Lagos State
that's
also
a
did.
good one.
Yeah, which is not bad. It
So right
means
now
that there
it's
is
not
control.
strong.
It means there is orderliness,
Yes.
and it means that INEC is ready, to conduct it properly. You know, and that could have been done even with Goodluck Jonathan's because you don't have many people there, but here they are standing,
So in other words
waiting.
now, Peter is waiting for his turn. He's not being given any special...
That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. But like we said, yes, Dr. DJ, go on.
He might, you can see he's disagreeing with somebody. Probably they are giving him some special privileges.
And he's saying no.
And he says, I'll wait, for my turn.
It's possible that's what.
One major difference between Peter Obi's polling unit and that of Atiku Abubakar and Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the orderliness. When the presidential candidate of the PDP and APC went to vote, it was too rowdy, and I was wondering in my mind that
No, Atiku
you don't
wasn't
assume.
rowdy. Atiku wasn't as rowdy. It's APC that was rowdy.
But there were people around him.
Polling unit was busy too, but not as rowdy as.
I was concerned about the orderness because if you are going for an election, if you are going to cast your vote, you don't assume that everybody coming to vote is your friend.
Yeah, but Peter
I was very concerned about the security.
We discussed that.
But Peter looks organized because he has chosen to stay in the queue.
Yeah.
He has chosen not to go and vote.
That's right.
Unlike the others. So naturally, the fact that he's even within that vicinity, everybody's on their best behavior.
We also have to be sure. We also have to be sure that
just to boost the
No,
security
he can't
of the
adopt the same
candidate.
system because these ones went to vote. They went there themselves to go and register. Peter has just gone and sat with the crowd instead. Is that not what he has just done?
What he has done is to is to leave out the privilege.
Exactly.
And follow the process.
And follow the process.
Yeah, exactly.
So that is why it's very calm.
Even if the privilege, special privilege was extended to Asiwaju and Atiku Abubakar, I don't think it's wrong.
There's nothing wrong
There's
with
not
it.
wrong.
Exactly.
Yes,
You know,
But this has always
yeah.
been Peter's selling point.
Yeah.
This I'm part of the people.
Well, that's his style and
It has always
personality.
been his selling point.
But he's now
Humility and
he has now stood up
frugality.
to obviously to go and
Yeah, but you can see he's moving from seat
oh,
to
he's
seat.
not standing up. He's moving.
moving from
He's
seat to
moving
seat.
turn by turn. Oh, I see.
Okay.
Even this act alone could still win him a few votes.
Of course, we are the
Any
ones.
which way.
We are the ones watching him on TV. Others can't see it.
That's true.
But in any case, this is his tough. This is his own.
It has always been his selling point.
You know.
I'm going to be different from the others.
Well, I mean, you seem to like that style, don't you?
I like it, but what I'm saying is that he's even taking it to the polling booth.
To the polling booth.
Instead of me to show that I'm bigger or I'm the star of the show, I'm going to sit with my people.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
right.
none of the other three have done that.
No, we've only seen.
But then again, I'm wondering if
we've not
Tinubu
seen
had tried
Kwankwaso
this,
yet.
would they have worked?
Why not?
have worked.
Why not?
You don't think the frenzy would have even transferred to this category, this level?
I think part of what an Asiwaju Tinubu will avoid is that it will be better to get it over with rather than have people, milling about and cause a commotion.
Yes, because that would have happened if he decided to sit in the crowd like this.
Yeah, so
It would have
you
caused
can
some
argue
distraction.
that it took a better decision to say,
Let's just say,
let's
move on.
on.
Immediately they left,
Let's
order
move
was
on.
restored to the polling unit,
So there's a sense of organization where Mr. Peter Obi is voting. Even the elderly man with a walking stick, moving from seat to seat. And what this shows to me is that the mere fact that almost in few seconds they are moving from seat to seat means that the process is fast and smooth.
Yeah, that's a clear indication. Yeah,
that's fine. And we still have Hidayat in Abuja, and we also would like to have your thoughts on what we are seeing, from here. Dr. Goodluck Jonathan in Bayelsa in Utuoke is casting his ballot already, and then Mr. Peter Obi, together with his wife, waiting, for their turn before they go. No privileges, no special considerations. Hidayat, what are your thoughts?
I think it's welcome. It's again telling us that our leaders are beginning to show humility, and gradually people are stopping to take Nigerians really for granted. In other climes, I know that they will not accord special privileges to any presidential candidate to actually vote. They are citizens like us, but maybe because we are respectful, we do that. But today we are seeing that the contest is actually changing. People are beginning to finally see that the voters are actually the kingmaker in elections. And I love that. And we need to actually see more of it. And while the last panelist was talking, he raised very important issues. I think some of the things to add in these elections is that finally it is an open race, because the Buhari 12 million votes that he has consistently gotten from 6 million up to his 12 million since 2003, when he started vying in a presidential race, is now up for grab, with no certain person inheriting it. That vote belonged to him as Buhari. He added like 3 million.
Former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I was just told by my colleague that you're also former vice president. So you just performed your civic duty here at Otueke, Ward 13, Unit 39. There was a bit of delay. What are your observations about this process?
First, let me thank all of you that are involved in the electoral process. The election, the INEC staff, the media people, the security and the government for where we have reached. Sometimes things look so easy, but practically it's a bit difficult. But I'm happy that at least I have voted. I was a bit worried when I got here by 8:30 and there was nobody. But this is almost to 12, but at least I have voted. That means that the election have commenced in this, at least in this unit, maybe some parts of the ward, and the materials are yet to get there. But we have tried to have started the elections. My wish for Nigeria is for us to conduct a peaceful election. And for us who are politicians, our conduct matters a lot. And I always tell politicians that, look, yes, you can win election through unorthodox means, just like using violence to win elections or buying votes and so on. But when you do that, you are behaving like an armed robber or a con man. Armed robber makes money through robbery, but everybody knows that it's an armed robber. A con man makes money through deceiving people, but everybody knows that he's a con man. They are not decent members of society. Politicians are supposed to be decent members of society. So we must conduct our affairs very credibly, that both our supporters, our relatives, and so on should know that politics is a clean business and allow people to vote who they want at any level of election. My plea is we, the politicians, the security people, the INEC operatives, should do the best for the country. The whole world is looking at us. So many senior global citizens are in Nigeria because of these elections. They want us to succeed, and we must not fail.
Now, what do you have to say concerning technology? The things that are used, looking at the last time that your fingerprint could not be recognized in 2015 by the card readers. What is your take on that?
Yes, the Beaver is improvement on the card reader. And I believe it will be better than the card reader. I don't think we are moving backward. We may still have some issues. It's technology. Even your phone, you have problems with your phone. Even if you buy one of the best smartphones, sometimes you still have problems. So I'm not expecting that the whole country, that the Beaver machines will work perfectly. But it's a significant improvement. And at least there's an attempt to improve on the methodology. The only thing I request from INEC is that in terms of distributing materials, this should improve on that. Because it appears they are using the same method to distribute materials. A place like Bayelsa State, when we have only 105 wards, in fact, by 8:30, it's really before 8:30. I've been observing elections in other countries. In most cases, everybody will be ready 30 minutes before the voting time. Everybody will be ready, including the brothers who vote. Everybody will queue waiting just for that time based on the law. But here, to 12. Before we vote, that is not acceptable.
Well, Your Excellency, you always stand on the path of peace, non-violent elections, and that's you're known around when you go around Africa and the world to preach this message during elections. What is your advice to whoever loses and whoever wins?
We've all said so. Remember some 3 days ago during the National Peace Accord, where the candidates and the parties signed the commitment for peaceful elections. I would have been there physically, but I was in Bamako and I was a bit trapped. But my speech was read by Bishop Kuka, and all of us advised in the same way that, look, elections must be peaceful, and that politicians should know that they don't own this country, and nobody's political ambition is worth the blood of any Nigerian. Not at all. People should not begin to think, oh, I have money, I'm contesting as governor, I'm contesting as senator, I'm contesting as president, so people will die because you want to be president or you want to be governor. No. Totally unacceptable. And we must imbibe that. You'll be a president. Look, after I was a deputy governor, from deputy to president, that is 8 years in Aguaye, another 8 years in Abuja, but I'm back as an ordinary citizen. So you will leave that office. So you struggle to get there. Your contestation for the position you want should not diminish us as a human race. It should rather improve us as a human race, if you mean well for us.